Do you think the Clippers are justified in letting Doc go?
No, I do not. Not in this particular instance. Let me emphasize that I got a lot of love for Doc Rivers. I've known him for many years. Having said all of that, if Doc Rivers, if the season had not been interrupted and Doc Rivers lost in the playoffs like they did in the bubble, you would not be hearing a word of dissent from me. You got to keep it real. You got to be fair, and he would have to go because you've had 7 years. You've never been to the conference finals with this franchise. And the bottom line is that that's unacceptable, particularly with the money that Steve Ballmer has put in play and what the expectations are that come with that. But there's something that needs to be said about that bubble play. First of all, two teams voted to not even want to participate in bubble play. One of them was the Clippers. They didn't even want to be there. Their actions showed it. You had guys that obviously family concerns and, a death in the family. Montrezl Harrell, he missed about 33 days. Patrick Beverley got injured. He missed about 19 days. A slew of other players were in and out, practicing. It wasn't hurt, whatever. Kawhi Leonard is your superstar, but not vocal at all. Perceived as a relatively indifferent person. Off the court. On the court, he's going to go all out, and he's a performer. But in terms of being a rah-rah guy, galvanizing the troops, bringing people together, that ain't his thing. And so you really are devoid of that kind of leadership. And in the bubble, when I look at what Doc Rivers, who he has been, what he has meant to this game, how he has coached all of these years in the league, he's a champion, he's been to 2 NBA finals, et cetera, I'm thinking about just how things have just shaped out. So we have the architect, Jerry West. I mean, we know how great he is. Right-hand guy, Steve Ballmer, listens to him, et cetera. Jerry West didn't necessarily support this from what I was told. He didn't see this coming. Okay, so then we go to a Lawrence Frank. I don't know what his role is. All I know is that he's an executive now, but he came there as an assistant to Doc Rivers. Somehow you're an assistant and now you're the boss. I don't know how that happened, but Lawrence Frank is to be respected. Really, really good guy. Woj knows him better than anybody. Then we got Steve Ballmer, the billionaire, who's got his inner circle. And Lord knows what kind of influence that they have had. I don't know what the hell happened. But in the end, I knew that when they lost the way that they lost, Doc Rivers was going to be in a world of trouble because somebody had to fall. And after you traded all of those picks to acquire Paul George, which is what Kawhi Leonard insisted upon, it's not like you could go out and change the players. Okay, they know they need a point guard. They know they need another shooter. They know they've got changes that they need to make. So now here we are. Now, Ty Lue is going to be a name that comes up there. Why? Because not only do the players there want Ty Lue if they can't have Doc Rivers, you've got other dudes that the Clippers are looking at acquiring via trade or anything else. And they have close relationships with Ty Lue. So stay tuned with that. Outside of that, Doc Rivers, as far as I'm concerned, Philadelphia and other options, I think Philadelphia should be on the phone with him right now. I think that they should be trying to get him instead of Mike D'Antoni. Let Mike D'Antoni go to Indiana. I think Doc Rivers should end up in Philadelphia.
Houston supposedly interested.
Yeah, Houston should be interested, although I don't know if you can undo what D'Antoni has done in terms of the habits that he's created in H-Town. In the end, Max, I'll hand it to you by saying again, I think that if there was no bubble, you would not hear a word from me. But the fact that the bubble existed and all of these stuff, I mean, for him to lose his job under these conditions, I just don't like it. I don't think it was fair.
First about Ty Lue. I said I thought Ty Lue was going to Philly. I thought like everyone kind of knew that. I think he's going to go to the Clippers. I think things have changed now. Right. And Ty Lue winds up on the Clippers. There's a good argument that the Clippers should have stayed the course with Doc Rivers. There's a very good argument. It doesn't always work out the season one when you put a team like this together. Especially when you have a leader like Kawhi who's not going to do it vocally, he's going to do it by example. But then that guy can't have the fourth quarter in Game 7 or the second half that he had in a Game 7 when they've had the other team down 3-1, because if you're not going to be vocal, then you really do, you have very little margin for error in terms of the example that you set. I wonder if Doc Rivers still has the eye of the tiger. I wonder if he still has the, it's not that he's not motivated or works hard or anything like that, but there's a difference between having that hunger that a young man has, that a guy who hasn't done it yet has, that Doc clearly had once upon a time, and just, look, not going through the motions, but doing your job without that extra little burning passion. I wonder if Doc still has that. Because you mentioned 7 years. It spans the CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan era, which was a combination that was very good, but let's face it, not good enough to win a championship, particularly in that Western Conference. But they finally pushed all their chips to the middle of the table. And they sacrificed every draft pick till kingdom come, right? And it's good to take that kind of risk. Like Danny Ainge, sometimes I look at him and we talk about it and we say, maybe he should have taken that risk to put the Celtics over the top. But when you do that, it doesn't mean you necessarily win. You might lose. It was so important for them to win this year. They, from the beginning, lacked chemistry. From the very beginning. And people like me who just rode them the whole way said, I'm looking at the type of players they have on this team.
Well, they weren't all on the same court at the same time. Barely.
The load management may have come back to bite them. Remember, I only favor load management because it's a strategy that you believe helps you. But sometimes if you overdo it, it can hurt you.
Yeah.
It's just a means to an end, really, to try to win a championship. They were never really together. They didn't play a lot together. They didn't seem like they were on the same page. I took it as an article of faith based on their personnel and their coach that they would eventually get it together. They never did. The Lakers were better than them all season and in the playoffs, and now they have no draft picks forever. So if you're Steve Ballmer, you could be looking at Doc and saying, under other circumstances, you just got these guys. But this was the year we had to do it, and the way we failed is not acceptable.
Well, first of all, there's a couple of things. Number one, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George may not have been there if it were not for Doc Rivers. Let's throw that out there. Number two, let's hold Kawhi Leonard accountable. Because if this were LeBron James, we'd hold him accountable. The fact of the matter is Kawhi Leonard came up short. And not only did he come up short on the court, you got to remember when he came there, because he was that dude, with all of these demands, the Clippers had to capitulate to that. Look at how much they gave up. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.